and welcome back to the T's and C's of Life podcast with Tanya and Claire.
No.
It's like take 3.
Yeah, maybe. One day we should compile all the offcuts. There'll be a lot.
Yeah, there is an awful lot. I delete a hell of a lot, and when I go through the editing process, it's intense.
Yeah, I bet.
Really intense.
I bet.
But it's fun. It's fun. And I was also thinking the other day about why I'm the one that always starts the podcast. It's always me. I think because I'm in control of the buttons, I'm a bit too bossy.
Yes. No, well, it is your setup. I stay away from the laptop.
Don't touch the laptop.
I'm not allowed. And it's fine because I don't want to, because I will definitely mess it up in some way. So I'm better just sitting back and just talking faff. I'm good at that.
So episode 5 is what we're on, and I'm really, do you know what, I can believe, because we weren't going to quit, but
No.
I'm really amazed at the response we've had. Like, we've hit over 400 downloads.
450. We're over 450 now.
462 actually. I just checked a wee while ago.
Not that we care about the numbers or anything.
Oh.
No, do you know what? That is so cool. That when I looked the other day, what I found really cool is that episode 1 people are still listening to.
Yes, I know.
And
That is very cool.
Yeah, it's not just the same listeners, which is cool, but that new people are constantly coming in.
Yeah.
I think that's really cool. That it's fun.
It's wicked. So our next goal post will be 500 is going to be, I think that's a no-brainer. It's going to happen soon. But 1,000, we're going to have to do something for our 1,000th download.
Streak. We'll do the show naked.
But not live on Facebook.
No, we're not going to do that anyway.
I'm not quite sure I'd be able to blur out. It would be too much with the tech to have to blur out the sensitive parts. And where to even find that? I don't even think you'd see them beyond the table anyway.
No.
They're like hanging down here.
No. Hanging? Oh, we've started off on a very high note today.
Dear. But at least you're not talking about luxury time.
Not yet. Not yet. There's still time. Still time. Lots of time.
So we have been harvesting our audience. We want to engage you all in this episode. We want to bring you in on it, because I know that this subject, like what Tanya and I both talk about, I mean, anti-racism and mindset, it inspires a lot of questions. It gets people thinking about their own lives and the way that they have conversations and the things that they think about and speak about. And we are a source of knowledge.
I've been called many things in my time. Source of knowledge, not as often. But yeah, we are. We do. This is what we do. So
it's our area of expertise.
And like you said, for both of those areas, I think they are things that hold not mystery, but people are still a bit intrigued about and not sure.
Yeah, you need sometimes someone to ask instead of Google, because like if you Google how to be anti-racist, it's going to take a long time to find an answer. And is it a personal answer? Is it a textbook answer? Or is it just somebody else's opinion? Or is this actually something that asking you, you can actually get a real life take on what you can do to be more anti-racist? So we have, I created an email address, which
you did.
Sadly nobody has used.
Oh.
But we are early days.
Rude.
Well, it is a little bit rude, but it's also very early days in terms of getting our audience to speak up and to
And I suppose
things.
we have, a lot of people do get hold of us on our socials because we're on there a lot.
Yeah, and it's where I would go. If I wanted to ask somebody a question, I would send them an inbox as opposed to, I know, I'll go into my emails and TS and CS podcast. Is that even? I think that's what it is.
T's and C's
podcast at gmail.com.
Yeah. So, but you can use it.
You can, of course.
So it is there. Please.
But we have had a lot of you get in touch.
Yeah, it's really cool.
And we've had a lot of questions and we're really excited to get into them. So shall we just, with no further ado, get straight into it? Do you want to read out the first one, or do you want me to read it?
I'll read it because you start the show every week.
Okay. I will take the lead. I am the boss.
So Jenny's question was, how do you deal with sexist comments from a female colleague when it's against females?
That's an interesting one, isn't it? I think, for me, whenever somebody asks me a question, I always try and reply with a question, try and find out why are you asking this in the first place?
Yeah.
And that always makes the person... It depends on I think it depends on the context of how it was asked. Like, was it just out of the blue? Or was it throughout a conversation? And you think, well, why? What makes you think? What makes you think that's an okay thing to say? Or why do you think like that?
I think with things like that, I'm always more disappointed when it's, so say with a sexist comment coming from a female to another female,
yeah,
I'd be more so disappointed. Like if I hear of, say, someone from a minority race that's been racist to another minority race.
Yeah.
It does. It just, because you're like, are you stupid?
Yeah.
Like, so it's really important, I guess, with that is then to not come back like that, because you're not going to get the response.
Yeah, it's always coming from a place of love. Like, there's always an opportunity to learn.
Which can be really difficult.
It's really difficult, and I'm not saying that returning to love is an easy thing to do. It's a massive shift in your mindset to return to that place where you always come from a place of kindness, as opposed to getting your back up and want to slap someone across the face.
Yeah.
So starting small and asking them a question, asking why the question was asked in the first place, it kind of de-escalates that feeling of rage and total flabbergastedness as to why somebody would ask such a bizarre thing in the first place.
And I think even like if you just heard a passing comment and they've made a comment, I say it all the time in my work with Part, you've got to challenge it.
Yeah.
You can't, as long as you're safe and all of that, but if you're you can't let it go, like especially not if it's another woman, because it's just not, my wording's gone, but yeah, you have to challenge it, and just, you don't have to do that like Claire said, it doesn't have to be aggressive. You can do that really assertively, really positively, and just be going, oh, do you know what, that actually that's not a nice statement, do you know that's quite hurtful, or actually that's quite offensive. And if you just say it normally, if you match, I always say this at work, if you match aggression with aggression, aggression's going to go up. If you match aggression with assertiveness, it's less likely that it's going to keep getting aggressive. Yeah. So it's trying to keep that level. There's no need for it to necessarily be an argument. It's just you're coming from a place, like you said, a place of love, and a place of helping them understand. If you're getting
all stressy about it, then you're also kind of positioning yourself as in you're judging them for what they've said. Yeah. You also are not aware of the reason for why they might have said something in the first place. So it's always there's always an opportunity to learn in every situation. Yeah. And I think in something like, if somebody is being sexist about their own sex, it just asks why would you feel like that? Like, what's happened? What have you experienced before that's made you feel like that? Is an okay and general phrase to use.
And it is, and I think that's very true. I think that sometimes because we are knowledgeable on a subject, that you forget that other people might not be.
Yes, that's very true.
So then when they might say something and they truly don't know. And I've always said this, that if a kid asks me a question and I tell him an answer, I'm happy with that. You can generally ask me anything and I'm not going to flip out. I'm pretty chill. If I've told you an answer and then you go back and do that same behaviour, that same negative behaviour, that's when you're more likely to get me to flip out. Yeah. Because you know now. Yeah. So, but if you are coming from a place where you genuinely don't know and you make a comment, then it's our responsibility to sort of go, right, okay, cool, this is what you should be saying, or why are you saying that, or explore that further. But you don't have to necessarily jump down someone's throat for a statement. Yeah. But
return to love. love.
I don't even know what that was.
There is no place where that came from. But returning to love should be the first thing you think about in every situation. And it's, it's not easy. It's really not easy. But the more you practice it, the better you get. Yeah. And if you, like you were saying about not meeting aggression with aggression, and meeting it with assertiveness. Yeah. Just be more clever in the things that you say and how you challenge things.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, let's move on to question 2. I'm going to read this one now.
All right.
I'm reading it.
Bossy.
So, hey, I'd love you guys to discuss issues around mental health, especially around how commonplace it seems to be amongst females our age is in our mid to late 30s, okay? And all the issues we're facing compared to previous generations. There's the pressure of working, earning money, keeping a roof over our heads, which is magnified for those with kids, I'm sure. I split with my husband after 8 years together, 2 of which we were married. The split was due to his drinking, and it was the right decision for me, but it's had a massive ripple effect on me. And I'm currently now taking antidepressants and have had 2 lots of counselling this year. Not sure how to turn that into a question, but maybe you can. If possible, I'd prefer to remain anonymous on this one. No problem, my darling.
Oh.
So there is no one question in that. I think it's the pressure of society and what it makes us feel that we should be doing, how we perceive our lives to be. And that is a really difficult one. And it's something that I've experienced as well. Like, am I doing things the right way? I didn't leave school and go to university, meet my husband, get married, buy a house. I didn't do that.
No.
And now I'm looking and thinking, should I have done that? Should I encourage my children to do that? What? There is no right or wrong way to live your life, but there is a right or wrong way in the eyes of society and how you live your life and what you need to do in order to be that elusive successful.
Yes.
I mean, what does success mean to anybody?
And this, I think that it's a really tricky thing because there is a lot of pressure nowadays and it will be a different pressure, I suppose, that would have been there, say, 40 years ago for people our age growing up. And with things like social media and being able to see that people are living these lives of just greatness. But it's, again, and it's the same thing I'd say to young people, is that actually each person is an individual and what is success to you? Because that could be a very different thing. I know that if you took us as a group of friends, we are very different in what we deem successful. That just making it for a bloody day for me sometimes, that is a success. I've got through, I've not hurt anyone, and my brain hasn't exploded.
Kids are all still breathing, they're all sleeping, happy days.
This is good. And it is, and I think that life can be really tricky, and this year especially has been a horrible year for most people. And so we have to then find those ways that what is bringing us joy out of this year, because there will be those little things, and it's clinging on to those instead of that negativeness, because we have, as humans, we have a sort of tendency to go to the negative. That it's, if I said to you, describe yourself in 3 words, generally people are going to go, oh, fucking hell, fat, ugly, stupid, like you go to the negative, whereas no, go, I'm bloody beautiful. Talking about myself here, obviously.
I'm not laughing at that.
She is. Very clever sometimes, and I'm a bloody good mum. That we have to do that, and we have to learn how to do that. And from whoever has written this post, is sort of, you've had a shit time. And it's obviously you were living in a bit of a shit time for a long time. You're out of that now. So it's thinking of, you can't keep clinging on to the past. The past is gone. We have to
it's time to rewrite your story.
Definitely.
I think who you surround yourself with as well makes a big difference to how you perceive your life to be. I mean, we are an average of the 5 people we spend the most time with, and that, when you see that written down in black and white, it's such an eye-opener, because you do start looking at your circle and think, oh yeah, we've got the same kind of cushions on our sofa. I painted my house the same colour.
It does,
we drive a similar car.
Yeah.
But the chances are you're living a very similar life to those that you spend a lot of your time, not your children, not your family, but the people that you've chosen to have in your life. And I think social media dilutes that kind of equation down, because for a lot of people, especially this year, who haven't been out socialising, their interactions have been with people online. And you do gravitate towards beautiful things and perfect things that you see. And just, you know, or it's not just Facebook, but social media as a whole is like the crack in the wall. You're seeing a tiny slither of somebody's life. But that...
And you're seeing what they want you to see.
Yeah, exactly.
And you have to really remember that. You're not seeing everything. Even I will post good stuff, I will post bad stuff, but I'm still choosing of that bad stuff what I'm posting and how I'm phrasing it or what I'm showing you. It is all completely engineered, because I don't want you to see everything. You might feel like, actually, bloody hell, I see everything. You won't.
Yeah, you're really not.
You really won't. Even those people that are constant posters that do your nut in a bit, because you're like, all right,
there's also a reason as to why they're doing that. What are they filling the gaps in their life with, this need to post shit on social media?
And who's saying that's wrong? It might annoy you, so then unfollow them. I do that a lot. But it's not... Who are we? Again, it's that judgment of why we judge another. We don't need to. Let people do what they want to do. And that's why I think social media gets a lot of stick. And especially... I have a lot of parents that might say, that this social media is to blame for everything. And yeah, it maybe has made it a bit worse, but also it can save bloody lives.
Yeah,
and we have to realise that. A lot of that I do is through social media, engaging with people. So that's not a negative thing, that it's just about learning how to use it. But mental health problems have always been there. That they may feel like they're more prevalent now, but is that just because we're able to talk about it more now?
I think people feel more confident. I mean, I don't know what the statistics are, but I think people feel safer to say it out loud that they're on antidepressants, or they feel that it's okay to be struggling and somebody might be around to help. And it's great that people do. It's great. I mean, I haven't personally experienced depression to that degree. After I had Aidan, I do think that I had a little bit of postnatal depression for a little while, but it was never major. Right, and it was never to the point where I went to the doctors, but I felt really, really shit after I had Aidan for quite some time. And I felt really ashamed of it because I didn't have a great big friendship circle down here. Trevor was at work all the time. I had family down visiting, and that I think was what kept me through, because I was always excited for the next person to come down and visit. You know, anyone that knows me knows I love a visitor.
Yes, you do.
And that was what kind of masked how I was actually feeling. So in a way, that was, I can't really say it was my therapy, because I don't really know whether I had it or not.
Yeah.
But I know I felt like shit. I know I felt really sad.
But you had something that got you through it.
Enough of a distraction, to get me past. And I mean, maybe 6 months, maybe up to a year.
Okay.
But yeah, I think when you feel like that, or when you feel that you've got to take medication for something, I think if people were honest about what medication they did take, I think a lot of people do take antidepressants, and maybe some people take them for longer than they maybe need to. But I think talking therapy, like speaking to somebody, is a brilliant way of helping, and somebody who's experienced something similar, not somebody who's in it at the time, because they can bring you down.
Yes, you have to be very careful.
If it triggers you, it can hold you back from moving forward. But being in a place where you feel like, I know this lady, and I know I think we're actually the same age. She might be a year older than me. So I can completely understand how she's feeling. Yeah. Like having got to a point where you think at this age, like just before you hit 40s, where you think you should all have it all figured out. Yeah. You've got the career, you've got the husband, you've got the house. And whether you've got the children or not is entirely, it's a personal choice, but that's what society makes you think that you should have. And then when it all disappears, how are you supposed to feel after that? Yeah.
No, and it is, and it's kudos. I've never said that word before in my life, but apparently now, one of my new phrases. But yeah, no, well done for reaching out, and 2 times counselling. And I think what we need to remember with counselling is that it's not a one-size-fits-all, and it is finding that right person.
Finding the right person,
because it is the talking. I find with my mental health day job that we work with young people, and that some of them really do just gravitate. But you're going to have others that actually just not their kind of person. So they'll do the programme and it'll work fine. But you'll see with others that it'll just be that bit more engaging and a bit more that actually, oh yeah, that's it. And it works really well. But that is life. Sometimes you then have to, I'll have young people that do the programme, and then I'll have to refer them on elsewhere because they need more support. It's not a one-size-fits-all life. There's not one way that's going to work for everyone. Yeah. But actually trying it, and that's all I ever say to anyone, is you've got to try it if it's there. There's so much support out there on offer. There's so much, and
that's sometimes harder though, isn't it? Yeah. Because it's like casting your net and hoping you find the right one to come to you.
But then I suppose it's how much you want it or how much you feel you need it. Because if you have to go through it, I mean, it is that resilience that you've got to go, right, I've met with one, oh my God, I really didn't like that person, or it really didn't help me. Try something else. Because otherwise, what's the alternative? That you don't try something else, and actually then you fall deeper into depression. Yeah. That reach out to your friends and family. If people don't know, they can't help you. Yeah. And everyone, I don't think I've ever had a young person not say to me, I don't want to tell my parents because I don't want to be a burden. I don't want to be a burden to them, so I've not told them anything. And you know, especially as a parent, I'm like, always tell me. Always, no matter what else. I am juggling a million balls at every point in my life. But my children, anything can stop for that. Yeah. And the same pretty much for my friends. It's just, that's what we're there to do. We're there to support. So support, and don't worry about asking for help. I say this, I can be very bad at times. I'm getting better. I think I'm getting better with certain people. I know who I can go to. I do. I know who, if I ring that person or if I text that person, they'll know from the tone of my text that I'm not myself. And then you don't have to necessarily reach out. And that's brilliant for me, because it's helped me learn to reach out more. And so it's find that process. Find what works for you and for your circle, and talk about it when you're not feeling down as well. Talk about how you can support each other as friends or as family, so that if those times ever do hit, you're there. Prepare. We all prepare. I haven't got a will, but I should have a will. I'm going to do a will. But we all prepare stuff like that. And that's so long down the road. But what about the day-to-day stuff? Talk to your circle of friends. What's going to happen if I need to go for an appointment? I know I can go, Claire, my kids.
Yeah, of course.
Know that if I run out of gravy, which I do all the time.
And coleslaw.
And coleslaw, yeah. Claire can never move, really, because I'm going to have to be very independent and shop for myself, and I don't want to do that. But it is, arrange those things, have those conversations so that you know who you can go to, because that can be really helpful. And also, don't beat yourself up if you don't have that, or if it does. Sometimes you have those dark moments, because we're all going to have them.
But I guess when you take a step aside from what's happening and you step out of your situation, and you when you understand and when you begin to appreciate that everything in life happens for a reason, the good stuff and the bad stuff, that there is always a learning opportunity in everything. And this cleanse of this person from your life is always going to be, you'll look back, and I fucking hate saying it, but time is a great healer, and it really is. It is a horrible thing to hear at the time, but even tomorrow, yesterday feels like you feel so much better today than you did yesterday,
and tomorrow you've survived.
That's
today.
it, exactly. So when we understand that everything happens for a reason, and nothing is ever permanent, like everything's changing, everything's flowing, everything's always moving and towards the greater good, whatever the hell that is. But everything is happening to us, is happening for us, and we've got to learn from that. And what can we take? Like, always take a positive from it. At the end of your day, I talk about topping and tailing your day with gratitude, like waking up and thinking of, say, 3 things that you're grateful for. Just a minute, whether your eyes are open or not, just think the first thing you do before you even reach for your phone, before you even get out of bed, just think, what am I grateful for right now? It just, whether you're in the mood to do it or not, just make it a habit, and tail your day with the same thing as well, right? So I might have had the world's worst day for me, not for anybody else, but just for me. But what can I take from today that has been good, or what can I take that I can turn into a positive? And try and flip it on its head that way. So give that a try, darling. Right, we have another anonymous question here. We often have discussions about racism and sexism and how one can be used to understand the other. For example, Harry may think a woman crossing the street at night to avoid crossing his path at night is doing that because of the colour of his skin. I think it's just as likely because he's a man, and women are taught to be wary at night. It'll be useful to get you and your listeners' thoughts on it. That is interesting, because this is a mixed race couple, and I can. What's your perspective of that? So I know this couple. They live in England, not in London, in the Midlands.
Right. Okay. I think that there will be a sexism. Oh God, there will be an element that if you see a man as a woman at night, that you may have a thought of, I need to cross the road. I think that is going to be increased because of the colour of their skin. Okay.
So do you think there's both aspects to it?
I think it will enhance. I think that race impacts so much. So I think it definitely will, especially in areas that are not as diverse.
Yeah.
because then they've got that stereotype. So you've then got the stereotype of going, okay, there's a man and I'm a woman on my own, but oh my God, it's a man with brown skin. So that's even worse. A man might have left me alone, but a man with brown skin, God no, he's going to rob me. And so then you cross. But I'm just sceptical.
So would I then take my white privilege and say that I wouldn't necessarily look at his skin and just see it as a man in the dark and I'm a woman? Am I being ignorant by thinking that?
I think that, I've said before, I think if you say you didn't see their skin, I think it's a lie. Because you would. You might not consciously be looking and going, I've seen their skin, but you are looking and going, I've seen their skin.
Yeah.
You do. You can't not. Like it's like going, I'm looking and I didn't see that they had blonde hair and not brown hair. Well, you did. You did.
Do you though?
You do. You take things in. You see people that, and you should see people, I always say it, but if you were to walk along the street and go, look, it's one of those things. I was talking to, I think it was a policeman that was saying about different learners or different remembering, how people remember stuff, and that you could talk to someone and some people could actually give you a list of, like, say, if they saw a burglary happen, and they could give you an absolute list of what the person looked like. And some people couldn't so much. Mm-hmm. Race often is something that always would be a fact, because it's such a big, like, signal of who a person is. So you would go, even if you weren't sure of their cultural background, but you'd go, oh no, they had brown skin. I don't know much else. I just know they had brown skin, or they had white skin. Because you do, and it's because you can't not see it unless you're wearing a mask. Yeah. And even then, people will make assumptions of the little bits that they can see, or however much. But I just don't think you could truly say that walking down the street, you passed someone and you didn't know what colour they were. Or I didn't see their colour. I don't believe you could say that. I
don't know. Well, that's quite an interesting debate, isn't it? And that's not what this episode is about, because I am going to continue.
Go on.
There will be, there's no way of actually really proving that unless you know every waking moment of a person's life and what exposures they've had and what they've been told, what they've read and what they've heard and what they've seen on telly, as to the profile that they have built in their mind of different races. So unless you are programmed to think that somebody with black skin in the dark is a threat, or whether you just associate the colour black as a threat, and in the dark you feel threatened, whether it's natural instinct to see someone who doesn't look the same as you and to feel threatened by that. I think there's so much more in that debate.
I think there will definitely be the threat element in the dark. I do. Yeah. I think that's standard as any woman, but I just think that the colour of their skin will impact that. And I think no matter what, because if it was that varied, I suppose, or that influenced by all these different things, then racism wouldn't be such a big problem. Yeah. Because, and it is such a massive problem that, so if we were to say that a lot of racists, you'd think, are uneducated, unread idiots. They're not. They're people that have been around different races.
That, though?
Because, well, I suppose Trump supporters. Sorry. I'll
take that bit out.
Yeah, you might have to.
I'm totally not.
God. Well, but again, that's a stereotype.
It is, isn't it? That is the perfect stereotype.
And the thing with stereotypes is often people feed into their stereotypes, and then you've got that as a problem, or not as a problem necessarily. I suppose it's a problem to whoever's.
Our little friend Trevor feeds into that. Not my Trevor Noah on the Daily Show. His little clips. I don't know what the name of the guy.
Jordan. I'm sure his name's Jordan, but I don't know.
He goes in interviews.
Oh my God, I love it.
But that feeds into the stereotype,
and it does. And there are. And we do, and that's the point, is that, and then we're watching that, and that's then what we're saying, if we haven't been up close with them, don't want to.
Is that to argue that the intelligent Trump supporters don't want to be associated with the guy?
And this is it, really.
It's purely a party decision.
So, but when you have, like you said, with that bloke, and you've got that many people that are that stupid, and are saying things that are that stupid, and you're going, right, okay, well, sort of proving my point here, aren't you? But, again, I am fully aware that not every Trump supporter will be a racist idiot. Fully aware. But there will be a few of them. So it's like stereotypes are there for a reason. They've come from somewhere, but we can't then let that lead us. But I just think if you've got all of these images and all of these, so say take that I'm going, if I meet someone that's a Trump supporter, I suppose my first instinct is going, oh, so what? So you're not very clever and you're a racist.
Yeah.
That I know that's wrong.
Yeah.
And I will then challenge myself on that.
Yeah.
But then that's what's coming at me. So if you've got then all the media going, right, okay, so black people are bad, black men are dangerous. If you see a black man in a hoodie, he's going to mug you. Your brain, it's not a conscious thing. You can't, and it is there, and that should be challenged, and that is why we talk about these things, and why there are so many different, like now especially, I think that more, I'd say, black people are making TV programs and making more media stuff and showing different races in different ways. You'd not just go and turn on the telly and you've got the stereotypical view of what a black person is. You've got that actually we're all quite different. There's lots of different kinds of us, and same with every other nation, that hopefully that will then start drip feeding. And so much of, especially say the country that we live in, are people that are open-minded and that are not racist and that hate racism and want to be anti-racist. But I still think if you're walking down the road and you see a man and he's black, you're more likely to cross over than you would if it was a white man. Yeah.
So, in respect to the question...
Let's
bring ourselves back about 10 minutes.
Right, we're here to debate.
Maybe that's why people won't want to ask us questions if we go off on a ramble.
Go off on a tangent. It's all right. We'll get there in the end.
But there are two aspects to that question. And I think it's good as a well-rounded human to respect both aspects, to appreciate your white privilege and to respect the feeling and the perception of the person who's not the same colour as you and how they might perceive the situation, and to understand both, and for them to see both sides of it. For a black person to understand that maybe the white person is seeing it from their white privilege perspective and thinking, well, no, not everybody's like that. Some people are nice out there. They're not everybody's racist. Yeah. And then on the other side of that, seeing the different perspective and not it being a challenge and a conflict. Is that fair?
Yeah. I suppose do you know what I'm thinking? My brain is slightly thinking that, is it my responsibility as a black person to then make that white person feel better?
No, I don't think you need to feel better. I think both people can see and respect it from the positions that they are, but I think more from, if you're from the white person seeing it from their perspective and their white privilege, they need to lean more towards the person who's not the same colour as them and how they're feeling about the situation and appreciate that. And not for the person that's not white to be pissed off and angry by it, and just see it as a learning opportunity and see, well, how can I help you to understand the history behind that? I think that, I get that, and I think it will depend on how many times it's happened. Yeah, okay. That will be the problem, and that tends to be the issue. Like I said, the first time it happened, that you'd sort of go, okay, whatever. And then it does get to a point where you'd either be like, oh, for fuck's sake, or but for her son, I suppose. It's her partner. Or her partner, then I would imagine he's used to it. And I think that So should she get used to the conflict that they'll have about the discussion? Because if she's not learning, I don't know if this is the first time or not. I think she needs to learn that this is going to happen. Not in a bad way. But I just think you need to look, like what you were saying, I suppose, you need to look at the other person's point of view. He does need to see that, that maybe she doesn't fully understand it. Yeah. But then that's his place to educate her and go, well, actually, this does happen and this is happening around the world, because that is a very small thing. But as I've talked about in some of the sessions that I do, the pyramid of hate, those small things, they build up and that creates prejudices, discrimination, violence, genocide. Like, it does happen. So it sounds really silly that I suppose get a bit like over crossing the road, but it is, because the knock-on effect that could have could be quite dangerous for him. Because, and if she doesn't see that, then if they have children, I won't put my children in certain positions because I'm aware that could be dangerous for them. I wouldn't want them. I'd move to Kent. It was quite dangerous, but not in that way. But it's thinking about that and thinking that actually there will be situations that are going to be more awkward, shall we say, for her husband, that for her wouldn't necessarily be a problem. And if you're living
here that it's going to happen.
Yeah.
So it's understanding that. And there may be times that she'll feel that. She may go round to like all of his family's house sometimes and feel like the odd one out.
Yeah.
But is that feeling like the odd one out? But you're just feeling like the odd one out. You're not feeling like you're discriminated against.
Is that the odd one out, or is that the minority?
I suppose it would be the minority, but I suppose it's thinking about how you're being treated. Are you then, if you can be the minority and still be, and that's fine. But then But the odd one out and the minority is a different way of different way of explaining it, because the odd one out with the air quotes, what you guys couldn't see, makes it like just a little bit different to being in the minority. But then to see a white person is in the minority, I think they'd be the same. I think they'd be the same thing.
Okay,
because it is minority, and the minority, as we sort of spoke about last week, has so many different.
Yeah, it does.
Gets people's backs up, and it's. But actually, you are still. That's how a lot of people would look at you, the odd one out. But you, and I suppose then that comes with a problem, because then you're saying that you're the different one, and then that's all again, and it all spirals. But there are going to be occasions where you are maybe the odd one out or the minority, and you've got to think about, if that's happened to you 1 out of 10 times, but actually for your other half that's 9 out of 10 times. Yeah. You should just be then being empathetic and be going, I suppose why this even, I can feel my heckles up slightly, and I think it's because I can hear people going, it's but you're pulling the race card. And I think I can hear that subconsciously in my brain of going, but he's like, no. And that sets me off, because the race card throws everything out of whack, and I'm like, there's no such thing. But, you know. Okay. It's,
Another episode, guys.
Yeah, it's a long discussion.
Right, we've got another question, and this one is from Dawn. Yeah, I'm the only one in my friendship group that is what I would call spiritually aware. I feel like I could help my friends be a little more positive, but I don't know how without coming across too woo-woo. Do you know, I should finish the question before I tell you this. I'm very aware of how people perceive me. I guess it's a little like being in the minority, question mark. So just a little thing about woo-woo. A friend of mine calls her noonie, her vagina, her woo-woo. So every time I hear the word or say the word, I'm like, oh, it feels weird.
Why?
People call it different things.
Yeah, but a woo-woo, that's a drink.
Oh, yeah, it is.
That's what I think of when I hear a woo-woo. I want to get pissed.
Not take a piss.
No. No, it's not.
Right. Okay. So, Dawn, I can actually relate to this, because I'm not the only one in my friendship group that is spiritually aware, but I'm the only one who's actively... Oh, there's your husband walking past. Samuel. Hi, hon.
Go home. Check on my dogs. Check my dogs haven't ruined my house.
So I'm the only one in my group where I speak a bit like that. I speak a bit like, oh, just, let's go meditate and let's just sit and be calm. And, I actively count people back on their breathing and things like that. So I am a little bit what you might call woo-woo. Yeah. So I can relate to how uncomfortable that might feel. But I think it's just trying not to force it on people, and not kind of getting your group of friends to sit around and say, all right, okay, so let's all do some meditation. You don't want to do that, but it's just, it's trying to get people to think about things in a different way. And again, coming from a place of love and just being softly and gentle in how you introduce things. And whether they're even wanting to or not. Because I have found sometimes, like if we're in our group chat, if it spirals into like some, I don't know, negative kind of way of thinking, and I'm aware that nothing I say is going to make any difference whatsoever. So I just take a step back rather than trying to say, well, let's try and see it from a different perspective. And let's return to love everybody, because it's a much nicer place to be. So it's just knowing your moment and bringing little bits of spirituality into your friendship groups, just through little things. Like, it could be a little card that you send to somebody, or it could just be the little things that you say, or it could just be when people make comments. And I think this was the biggest thing for me, actually, was people started to come to me and say, I feel really calm around you. I feel like in a group I'd get people come to gravitate towards me, because I don't bring drama, I don't bring like stressiness or any kind of hyperactivity. Unless I'm pissed, then that's a totally different ballgame. But I do get people say about how they feel when they're around me. I think the most I've ever had actually has been at work, when I've worked with people like on a 12-hour night shift, and people have, at the end of the night, they're like, God, I feel so relaxed going home. And it's really nice. It's a really nice compliment. Yeah. But when you're just being true to yourself and you're being the person that you want to be, and you're not trying to make other people change the way they think or the way they change the way they live their lives, but if somebody's coming to you with a genuine question, there's your opportunity to say, well, have you tried meditation? Like, I recommend meditation to people that I see walking the street. You know, if they're rubbing their head, you need to meditate. Take 5 minutes. There's one to download on my website. Look up the Mindset Mum. You know, meditation's like a multivitamin for your soul. And it's the one thing that sometimes it will trigger people, because it is a little bit unusual to some people. But once you've tried it, just for a few minutes, it makes you feel so much better. Yeah, I suppose I've been drawn into it. Sort of, not dragged, kicking and screaming.
Well, maybe a bit
you
of both.
You approached me to do this podcast.
You're all right. I'm having second thoughts now. I know that, so my sister is very much into it as well, like is a very spiritual person. And I am very much that child brain. If you go on at me about something too much, I'm off. I'm done. I know I do it, and it is a negative trait, and I know I do it, but I'm just like, nope, stop talking to me, stop talking at me. Don't talk at me. I don't like it. But it's those little things that have persuaded me that actually this makes sense. It's not, if you were to sit me down and give me a spiel, I am a bit like, okay.
Yeah, nobody likes to be preached at, do they?
But actually, it is, like you said, it's just being, you drop it into conversation very subtly. So it's not like, do this. It's more of a, okay. And listen, have you looked at that? No, okay.
You know straight away whether somebody wants to be, if they want to change the way they think. And it's not like radical change. It's not like a cult or anything like that. It's just about changing the way you reactively think. You know, if somebody pisses you off, rather than being all aggressive about it, return to love, sing the song.
Don't sing the song. That'd be weird.
But yeah, it's making conscious changes to the way you practice your thinking and your conversations. Yeah. And that's all it is. I mean, I'm still the same person I always was.
I think we talked about this maybe episode 1 or 2, I don't know when we talked about it, but about the stereotypical view, I suppose, of someone that's spiritual and all of them things. And actually, it's not that. It's so much bigger than that. And so many different varieties of it that we talk about mindfulness at work, and it's not always going and sitting and meditating like with the
you can make it totally normal.
And it is. It's like just doing an activity, but doing it mindfully and being in the moment. And there's so many different ways about it. But if someone had sort of said that to me 5-6 years ago, I would have been like, whatever. Yeah. Whereas now it's seeing it and seeing the effect that has on you and how it has changed your life and helped you with stuff. So, same with my sister, seeing how when she puts it into practice, how much more chill life is, you sort of go, oh, okay, this makes sense. And it's not something that I think people are sort of afraid of and sort of like, I don't have time for that, or I don't want to do that, because actually, no, I'm fine. It's just you try it.
Yeah, it's conscious little actions that you do throughout the day, and that's what I started the Mindset Mum for in the beginning, was to make people aware more of their spirituality so that it can live more balanced. And everybody wants a bit more balance in their life. I was watching Nigella the other day and she was talking about balance in her cooking. I was like, yes, girl, I love you, but I love you even more now that you bring balance to making toffee sauce. Yes. And everything in life is about finding balance. And when you can make more balance by doing little things like thinking about 3 things you're grateful for in the morning, 3 things that make you happy, whether the word grateful makes you think about positive things or not, but what makes you happy, what makes your heart sing? 3 things that make your heart sing. At the beginning of your day, at the end of your day, it doesn't take time. It's just you're lying in bed thinking about the shit you've got to do tomorrow. Why not think about the shit that happened today that made your heart sing? Yeah. And it's just a way of thinking, changing the way you think if it doesn't serve you. Yeah. So if you want to have a little introduction to it, you could, this is what my book Unleash Yourself is all about. Yeah. Is beginning that kind of spiritual awareness journey.
And it does it in a really simple, And when I say simple, I love the word simple because when I see simple, I mean easy for me to sort of understand.
Yeah.
And I think that's what you need. I can't do big words and like all this convoluted. Oh, that was a big word. But I can't do it because it throws me. Whereas when it's actually, I can put it into practice, or it's something that I can read and go, okay, that actually makes sense.
Yeah.
Because it's just like someone talking to me and saying it in a really simple way.
Yeah.
That's how I found the book. I was like, okay, this makes sense.
Yeah.
This is really easy
And
to fit in bits.
Simple Simon stuff.
Simple Simon. Not a pie.
Right. Our very last question is an audio note, which is very exciting. I said to Tanya the other day, I said, have you had anyone send you an audio note yet? She's like, no, not yet. I was like, I really want one. I really want to play it. And I was going to play it through the laptop, but I'm not trusting the laptop. So we're going to play it just on the microphone. So fire away.
Hey Zara, I'm just driving, so I thought I'd send you this voice note because I'm just listening to your podcast, and I remember being at school with you, and do you remember they used to have the Caribbean Club? It was in the history room, and I remember you going in there, and I remember them saying, oh, you're not black enough, and that has just jumped out at me because at that time I remember thinking, how horrible, I'm not black, but it upset me because it was not very nice. So yeah, to say I love the podcast, and it's just really nice because I get to listen to you and it's like you're in the car with me. So yeah, keep it up, mate, keep it up.
Oh, I love that.
Oh, thanks, Katie. I do love my Katie.
It's so cool.
Yes.
I mean, we've talked about Black Club before, haven't we?
We didn't actually go into it. We've talked about it, me and you, but I don't know we've talked about
colourism on the schedule. Let me just check the schedule.
No, we did an episode. Remember, we recorded one on colourism, and the sound was awful.
Oh yeah,
and
but
we cut it out.
got it coming up.
Okay,
it's coming up.
Yes,
on episode 8.
Oh, there you go. I think we're doing everything in that one, aren't we?
Yeah,
bit of it all.
Yeah,
but yeah, so. Black Club or Caribbean Club, as Katie nicely put it, that I always just called it Black Club because it was Black Club. But yeah, I wasn't allowed to join it because I wasn't black enough.
Really interesting that she had that. Was that high school?
Yeah, I must have been year 10-ish, maybe, so about 15.
Because I find it really interesting that she had that empathy. I guess she had a very kind of diverse friendship group and family anyway. Were you friends with Kate back then?
Yeah, Katie was like my group of, like my girls at school. I had the 2 groups. Oh. So it was like Katie, Laura, Lucy, Lindsay, was Eleanor. That was our group. And it was quite a mixed group. In school, we were a very mixed group, I'd say. That Emma, there was a few of us in the group, but that wasn't the first experience of being told you're not black enough. It was something that constantly through my life, and I was just like, I've just been born in London, that's all I am. I am who I am, but it was constant. And I remember with that, it was like, I still don't know what they did in Black Club because I wasn't allowed in. And what pissed me off more at the time, and still now, is that there was a white girl that was in Black Club.
Yeah, that's hilarious.
And I was like, what? Really? Well, fuck you all then. Like, seriously. And I wonder if they have ever thought about it now. At the time, I don't think they even gave it a second thought, and it was probably like, well, no, that's just standard. Why would you want to come that you like take that and all of this kind of stuff? But I don't know if they would realise the impact that would have had on me as a 15-year-old girl that already was having things like that said, and actually you're like, well, no, I am as black as anyone. And that, again, to have that then from people of your own colour, it sort of hits that bit harder because it's like, okay. And I think I was saying,
it's like a massive identity crisis, isn't it?
And it was, and that I did have that quite a bit when I was younger, because it was like I'm not black enough for the black girls, but I'm too black for the white boys and girls. So it was sort of like, really?
Where do you fit?
What? And it was a shitty thing, but now, as I've got older, I'm more confident, I suppose, in my blackness. But that did take a long time because of that, because then it felt like, okay, well, I'm not the right black. So if I act in a certain way, or if I talk a certain way, or if I do a certain thing, am I going to be criticised for that by someone? And it really does take its toll. And I talk in my online thing about internalised racism, and it does get to a point where you sort of just go, well, then fuck all of you black people, because you're not accepting me, so fuck you all. And that's wrong, because for one, it wasn't all black people, but it does make you feel like, well, then I'm not part of that group. And actually, no, I am part of that group, and I'm happy to be part of that group. And I'm not going to let a few idiots tell me that because I date a white man, I'm not black enough, because I fucking am. So it's, but yeah, I hope those.
I think that'll be a really interesting conversation when we do have that on episode.
And it is. It is a big thing, and I definitely think it's worth exploring some more. I might get ranty, because I get ranty when I get stressed.
Look, we have one more question, and look, we're nearly an hour. Do you think we can fit it in?
What's the question?
Do you know what? When I created the blurb and all the text for the podcast, I was like, we're going to keep the episodes to 30 minutes, because I know we're all busy. We've got busy lives. We're listening on the go. And fucking hell, we've got an awful lot to say. If you hadn't guessed it already,
we've gone from 2 weekly to 1 weekly, and half hour to an hour.
We've quadrupled our output.
We really have. You cannot get too much of Tanya and Claire. Ever.
Right, okay, so we've got our final question. I think the last question I said was our final question. I forgot we had this one hiding at the back. Oh, wow. Anyway, I think it was episode 2 when you were chatting about white privilege and using this in a positive way. I understood the points made, but worry that if white people using their privilege to open doors for the underprivileged, although very noble, this could be fueling the issue. Like plastering over something rather than fixing it. It's almost giving another layer of privilege, in my opinion. What do you guys think?
Yeah.
This is deep.
And this is something after, like, sometimes I talk a lot. And then sometimes I listen back and I go, right, actually, is that going to be an issue? And I probably messaged Claire quite a bit of going,
what about, the white privilege episode? Yeah.
And it did. Sometimes it froze me, because I'm like, does that make sense? Is that going to then cause more of an issue? Is it going to cause my brain starts to properly go, there's imposter syndrome, everything starts to happen after I've recorded an episode. And I listened to that one and I thought, actually, no, I agree with the points that I made, but I do think it's such a fine line when it comes to embracing, I suppose, your white privilege. And what I meant when I said looking at it positively is not going out and being a white saviour, because I do think that causes an issue. It's going that you do come from a place of privilege, and so how do you use that without, I suppose, without being a white saviour? And you're not taking over, you're not there to do the job for someone else necessarily. But if you are in a place of work where there's lots of white people and you have the ability to be able to make that a more diverse environment, or make it better for someone else. Yeah, it's those kind of things. That's how you can use that white privilege.
Draw
and that's
more
how it can be a
attention
positive. Yeah, that I'm working with some people from a university, and they are doing so many great things, and they're able to do this because it's not the most diverse, I suppose, workplace.
Yeah,
and they can do that, and they can then that opens doors. So it's not about being a white saviour. It's going, right, what is my position? And how can I then make this better for people of BAME, like BAME people? Yeah. And so it's more things like that. And I probably didn't vocalise that well, because I do, like I said, I get ranty. But it's thinking of your environment and how can you then make that better for others, but without taking over, because and sometimes you might need to take over. I don't necessarily think that's always bad. But then you also need to recognise if you are, what is your reason for doing it? And are you taking over? And can that actually be done by someone else instead of you? Like, I don't know. My brain's gone. What was you going to say?
I can't remember what I was going to say. But I think it's interesting, isn't it, to think from a completely different perspective. Like, now that I'm beginning to appreciate I have white privilege and I can see it. I can see it in things and it's really challenging for me to understand what life must be like on the other side of that. Like, I've lived my life never having to think of it. You've lived your life experiencing it every single day of your life. Every time that you encounter something. And it must be hard not to say, is it because I'm black? Because that's like the cat, is it because I'm black?
Well, we had the conversation the other day that we'd gone shopping, together but separately, and I had bought a bag
Yeah.
Anytime I do buy a bag, they go through the bag. They open the bag and check I haven't put anything in. Yeah. You bought a bag and they didn't, but you did say, look, that there wasn't anything in the bag, obviously. Yeah. But it's the fact that they didn't even feel they needed to do that for you. I hadn't even thought of it. I thought it was normal. I honestly thought they do this, and maybe they do, and maybe you've just got a nice face and it was just a one-off. But then it's things like that you go, what's that? Is that? And if those things are happening all the time, you sort of go, well, actually, that is something. And it's then as well, if you have got that white privilege and you're seeing something happening, it is you interject. I think there was a big thing about all like the stop and search. That wasn't the big thing, but about jumping in as a white person when you see that, because the police may act differently. And I'm not saying that is true, that they will act differently, and I'm not getting into the police because I'm not allowed. But it's if you're walking past and you see someone being stopped and searched, and it is that same stereotypical young black boy, ask the police what's happening. Yeah. Or ask the boys, are you okay? Yeah. Because it's just because sometimes it just brings that back awareness. Because say those police officers, and I'm not saying this, I'm just using an example just to say, but say they are working under these stereotypes and these biases, and then actually you've got someone in that's come in and interrupted that may give them a second to go, actually, right, we're going to act differently. Yeah. We're going to do this differently. And that could then be the difference for that young black boy, say. So it's in that kind of way, it's interjected. And that, again, anyway, we should all be challenging stuff. And I'm not saying interrupt the police all the time, please. I'm going to get so many shouts. But there is shit happening in the world. And often your white privilege can be used to help disrupt that. Yeah. And so if you are in that position... That's a good word, disruption, isn't it? Stopping the chain of thought. And it can. And sometimes it can be as simple as that. So it's thinking, how can I use it that is going to benefit others? And it's not thinking about how it's benefiting yourself. And I think that's where white saviorism sort of comes into it, is that when you are, it's about you. The end result is about actually how this is going to make me feel. Yeah. I'm going to go on Comic Relief and smile with the little African children. And look, that makes me look good. Yeah, my album's going to sell so much next month. That's the difference. And actually going, right, you know what? Behind the scenes, I'm doing all of this shit, and I'm doing it because I want to help. Yeah, you don't need to shout about it. So, I hope that clears that up. Yeah. Probably doesn't, because I'm ranty today. Well, it's a difficult subject, isn't it? And you're never going to have all the answers to every question, and there's always going to be something that challenges your thinking or makes you think, actually, maybe there is a different angle to it. Maybe there is a different way of explaining it. And that's what the podcast is all about, is definitely. To get people thinking and asking us questions so that we can challenge our thinking. Because although this is our areas of expertise, we're by no means the font of all knowledge on them. No. Most of the knowledge maybe, but not all of the knowledge. I mean, most of it. Like 90%. There is always room for improvement, and there's always room for growth in all areas of life, and that's what we want to inspire within the T's and C's of life. I hope with that in mind that you sort of then go, if you have heard us say something that you think, actually, that's inspired me either to go and look at things in a different way or go and learn about it some more, because that's what we're here for. We're not here to tell you 100% this is how you must live your life. You should, but how you but if it then you go, do you know what, actually, that was a really good point that Claire made, and I want to find out some more about that. So whether that's then you hit us up privately and we have a conversation, or you go and read a book on something else, or buy Claire's book. My book. Unleash yourself. I was getting there. But it is, there's so many things that you can do. The podcast is brilliant. I love doing it, and I love ranting and talking about this stuff. I love it. That we're getting more comfortable with it as well. It's kind of like, sometimes I sit and I watch you speaking, and you're not speaking to me, you're speaking to the microphone, and you're passionately speaking. It's like, we don't normally have a conversation like this, but this is beginning to feel more and more normal, and this is brilliant. I love this so much. And I love that from the feedback that we're getting, that people are loving it, and I think that spurs us on. Makes my heart sing. It does. Don't sing again. I'm not going to sing again. Don't sing again. But thank you for all your questions and stuff, and we will do this again. Yeah. And don't let this stop you sending any questions. And we always send, because we can always fit. we just run to whatever time we want to run. So if you send us one and we're not even talking about it, we'll talk about it. We'll fit it in. 2 hours next week's episode.
It won't be. I will edit the shit out of it and keep it down.
Yeah.
Oh, dearie me. Right. On that note, shall we say our... Oh, wait a minute. One more thing before we go. As I've mentioned, I think, previously in the podcast, or even today, I work in a nursing home. I do night shifts. And we're running a fundraiser to try and raise some money in order to be able to buy an interactive table for our residents. Right, majority of our residents have dementia. Not all of them.
What's an interactive table?
It's like... I think it's probably about half the size of this dining table, if you can see, like, you can see my arms moving and I'm doing all this thing here. It's about, I don't know.
It's a table.
It's a table. It's a decent sized table. It's much bigger than a laptop or an iPad or anything like that.
Right, okay.
It's like if you go to the game centre and you get these little ones where they've got fish on them and you see them, it's like that. And I'm so excited to actually own it. And not me personally own it. To be at the home so that when I'm on my nights I can go and turn it on. It looks amazing.
Okay.
So we're trying to raise £5,000 and it's quite a hefty purchase. They're really pricey.
Right, okay.
But it's going to make such a massive difference to the residents.
Yeah.
So I have created a GoFundMe page. If you feel inspired to donate to it, that would be amazing. I'll put the link in the show notes because it's full of numbers and stuff. It's not like... I should have made it customisable. I should have made it like GoFundMe at Larchmere House.
You could do that.
Well, you can't. Well, I don't know if you can. You should be able to, so you can do it on things like this. But anyway, it's not. So I'll put the link in the show notes so people can.
And
find
I'll put it on the Facebook, my Facebook page,
lovely,
and on the Linktree, on the Instagram page. We'll put it everywhere.
Yeah.
And so just donate because that is actually very cool. And dementia is a cause very close to my heart, obviously with my mother. So anything like that, it's just, if it makes people smile, then that's good.
And my evening entertainment as well.
Yes, exactly. Help Claire
my nights pass
make it through a 12-hour night shift. It's a long old time.
Oh, dear.
Yeah, but thank you for listening.
Thank
again,
you so much for your questions. They've been really fun to do. I really loved it that we had a voice note. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Kate. And also, while we're bigging up Kate, because I do love her, she has got a YouTube channel that is called This Mummy Knows. So go and check that out as well, because I love Kate and I like supporting my friends. So go and hit her up as well. Subscribe to Katie. This Mummy Knows.
Woohoo! Bye.